You know, here in Central California, we have a tomato harvest like no other place in the world, I'm sure. This time of year, the Roma tomatoes piled up in trucks actually bounce off the truck. They're so loaded, you can find these on the road where the trucks hit bumps. Now, that's not where these came from. These came from an organic garden. But the point I want to make is this. When we have such a bounty, we look for ways to preserve it. And one of the finest ways of preserving tomatoes in my book is drying them. Take a look at this. That was done a few weeks back. I'd like to show you one reason why Romas are used for drying. It's one of the varieties, and one of the easy to get a hold of varieties, that has a lot of meat, not many seeds, and they're not real juicy. It's a great cooking tomato for that reason, and it is especially a good drying tomato. Now, if you're going to dry tomatoes, don't chop them up. Leave them in half. I cut the ends off. They were a little crinkly and dark looking, so I cut the ends off of this. Normally, there wouldn't be quite so much cut off. You want to dry your tomatoes face up, cut side up. You want to line them up. I put them actually on a piece of plywood outside, set up with 2 sawhorses. I cover the plywood with plastic wrap, tape it down so it doesn't blow away, and then I will cut a big bowl. Wash the tomatoes first. Take the little stems out, the little dark core parts, and then I will cut my tomatoes in half like this and lay them out first thing in the morning. I'll get them out on top of that plywood, covered with plastic, and by evening, they'll be crusted over. These 2 were cut 24 hours ago. You can see the difference in size. Yes? Well, it was more like this. Quite a difference. They begin drying up. The reason for keeping them with the cut side up and the cup side down is because you don't want to lose any of that juice. That's where the sugar is. That's where the flavor is. So as they dry, all of that wonderful stuff just stays put. Get them out early in the morning so that as soon as the sun is up and hitting them, they get the full day of sun. By the end of the day, they're crusted over enough that the bugs won't bother them. That's the biggest problem with drying things outside. But that problem can be solved easily by just being organized and getting them out early. Now, depending on the size of your tomato, this could take several days to dry, but you just kind of keep an eye out on, test them every couple of days, see how they're doing. Now, these tomatoes were not Romas. These were an assortment of heirloom tomatoes that I tested for the sugar content. Sugar is a prime ingredient in a good dry tomato. So I was looking for flavor, I was looking for organic, of course, and I was looking for high sugar content. So as these dried, I let them dry to the point that I was able to break them right on the drying table, because I want these dried tomatoes, I'm going to process them. That's for another segment, how to process them, but I'm going to process them, keep them in oil, and garlic oil, of course, and have them for the winter to be able to sprinkle on salads. If I waited to break these up until later in the process, I'll tell you what, it's like pushing a snowball uphill. So, get your tomatoes out early in the morning, make sure they have good sugar content, check them regularly every couple of days, and as soon as they are crisp enough, they've got to be crisp so they won't mold. As soon as they're crisp enough, take them in. Before you process them, now these are unprocessed at this point, before you process them, keep them in an open container. That's why they're sitting out like this. There's always the possibility that there's a little bit of moisture in here that could start mold growing, and we don't want to lose our incredible crop. So that's it. We're going to get a nice batch of tomatoes out this morning, and we'll share that picture with you. And in another segment soon, I'm going to show you how to process these treasures of dried tomatoes. So stay tuned. There's more to come.